Welcome to Diving Deep into Ecology.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So CR, tell us a bit of what you're going to be talking about.
The tundra is the youngest and one of the most brutal but fragile biomes in the biosphere. When glaciers retreated, lichen were one of the first pioneer species to populate a land with no soil through a process known as primary succession. The land is usually very cold and stark with no trees because of the ground, and only moss, heathens, and lichen grow. Their ground is permanently frozen 25 to 100 centimeters down, so the soil is limited in nutrients and minerals. During this winter, the climate is cold, very windy, and dark, with the sun barely rising, but in the summer it is soggy and the land is covered with bogs, marshes, lakes, and streams. The sun shines almost 24/7. Although there isn't a lot of biodiversity within the animals that live in the tundra, there are over 48 species of organisms living in the tundra. Since the environment is very hard for plants and animals to live in, any extra stresses and disturbances, such as biotic and abiotic factors, can affect the way plants and animals live, causing the population of animals to decrease.
Wow, I didn't know so much about the tundra and ecology. Did you get to see the ecosystem up close?
I did. I actually went with researcher and ecologist Megan, and we looked at 5 different animals: the snowy owl, the Arctic fox, polar bear, Arctic tern, and grizzly bear, and 5 different plants: the Labrador tea, pasque flower, tuft saxifrage, Arctic moss, and bearberry.
Please tell us about your findings. I'm sure our audience is just as excited to hear about it as I am.
The Labrador tea is a species of small plants about 4 or 5 feet with woolly branches, 1 to 2 inch dark green leaves which are smooth on top and hairy on the bottom, and white flowers blooming in June and July. The pasque flower is found in many areas of the tundra, though commonly found throughout northwestern U.S. and up to northern Alaska. It grows to be low to the ground about 6 to 8 inches in order to keep warm. The flower ranges from dark lavender to a whitish color. The tuft saxifrage grows to be 3 to 15 centimeters tall with rigid and hairy leaves. The plant likes cool weather, and its roots have developed a way to store carbohydrates, enabling it to respond quickly to the cold weather. Bearberry, a small red berry, got its name from bears, such as the grizzly bear and polar bear, eating it. It is a form of a bush and it stands 2 to 8 inches off the ground. An adaptation of the plant is its silky hairs and thick bark, which helps her maintain a homeostasis within the plant and keep it warm. Leathery leaves and white or pale pink flowers can be seen on the evergreen, which blooms from March through June. Bearberry often grows in dry, non-nutrient soil. Arctic moss is a very common plant in the Arctic that can live up to 9 years. It grows in underwater, freshwater lakes. The green leaves are only 1 cell thick, and they have tiny rootlets. Many different birds eat Arctic moss, and Arctic moss warms the ground, which makes the plant a biotic factor because the moss allows other plants to grow. These plants are all at the bottom of the food web with a trophic level of 1. Since they are the producers that receive nutrients from the soil and use sunlight, the main energy source for life, to produce energy. CO2, water vapor, and other atmospheric gases form a layer around Earth and lock in heat, energy, and preserve the biosphere's average temperature, allowing Earth to remain an appropriate habitat for life. CO2 is constantly being released into the atmosphere by human activity, respiration, and decomposition of decaying matter. Plants convert CO2 into carbs, which are then passed along the food web to other animals. Also at the bottom of the food web are our decomposers, whose niche is to decompose dead animals and plants and help keep the surrounding clean. These decomposers help a lot in the nitrogen cycle. The decomposers, through nitrogen fixation, convert nitrogen gas into ammonia, which other bacteria then convert into nitrates and nitrates. Producers then use these products to produce proteins. The consumers then eat the producers and reuse the products for other things. When organisms die, bacteria converts the nitrates and nitrates into nitrogen gas through denitrification.
Welcome, Megan.
Thanks, I'm happy to be here.
So we heard about the plants, so tell us about the animals. I'm very curious.
Well, the Arctic tern has the longest yearly migration of any known seabird, covering over 25,000 miles. It follows the summer, immigrating to Greenland for the northern summer solstice and emigrating from Greenland to Antarctica for the southern summer solstice. This yearly migration causes the population density to increase as they populate the Greenland tundra and decrease as they leave Antarctica, and vice versa. Although there was an estimated 100,000 pairs in 1950, The population declined to under 65,000 pairs in 2003. Human disturbances are the major limiting factor causing this decrease. Over the years, the human consumption of tern eggs, along with the production of egg harvesting, has caused the number of tern to lower significantly. Another bird of the tundra is the snowy owl. The snowy owl is one of the largest birds. Covered in white plumage, the snowy owl blends in with its snow-covered biome, and the plumage provides camouflage for female owls as she sits on her eggs. Snowy owls live in hollow nests of frozen turf and moss on ridges and hills throughout the tundra. The owl feeds on lemmings, voles, rabbits, seabirds, and the Arctic fox, making it a carnivorous animal. The Arctic fox is covered in a thick white coat, which acts as camouflage to blend in with the tundra's snow and ice. The Arctic fox is a predator to lemmings. If an exponential growth of lemmings were to occur, then the amount of foxes would also increase. In reaction to the increase of foxes, logistic growth occurs in the lemmings population due to the rise of the death rate. The fox is an omnivore, eating birds, eggs, small mammals, and fish, as well as berries and seaweed. Arctic foxes are scavengers, and during the winter, when prey is scarce, they follow the polar bear and caribou, who uncover lichen and other food. After the caribou vacates the scene, foxes dig deeper holes to eat some mammals that have been unearthed. This is commensalism. The fox also consumes some leftovers of the polar bear kill. One of the Arctic's most well-known animals is the polar bear. The polar bear's black skin is designed to absorb the sun rays to keep the huge animal warm. Since the species is endangered, the carrying capacity cannot be determined because there are not enough living close together. They spend their time between drifting on ice, eating, and resting. Despite the decline in polar bear population, the polar bear is key in the balance of the ecosystem, being a major consumer. The bear usually needs to perform a lot of predation to keep itself fed. Prey of the bear consists of ducks and bearberries. The bearberries, as most plants in the tundra, get their energy from the sun. This makes them producers. In turn, when the polar bear consumes the plant, they are getting 10% of the plant's energy. The Arctic grizzly bear is a creamy yellow color with brown leg. An Arctic grizzly bear can be distinguished from a hump between the shoulder blades. A common misconception is that the grizzly bear eats meat and is carnivorous, when in truth, the bear's diet is 75% plants and it very rarely hunts. This makes the grizzly bear an omnivore. The bear hibernates in the winter until spring. They are mostly solitary but are not territorial and can be seen grazing with other bears.
Now, you said something about energy when you were talking about the polar bear. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. Generally, 10% of energy in one trophic level is passed on to the next. This is because animals use the other percentage for other life functions. In this case, bearberry would have the greatest biomass because it is a producer.
Is there anything that affects the biome's ecosystem, Ciara?
Definitely. The Arctic lumber industry is a major contributor to the Arctic biome's ecosystem. When trees are cut down, secondary succession occurs and the whole population of trees has been affected. The community of organisms living on the trees that have been cut down can be a non-renewable resource because the ecosystem in which the trees had been cut down will be changed, possibly forever. If the lumber companies are following the laws, the trees will remain as a renewable resource. However, in extreme cases, if the land has been overlumbered or has been experiencing a drought, desertification can occur. In the burning of these trees and other human activities, CO2 is released into the atmosphere. This is viewed as a pollutant to the ecosystem because it has raised the level of carbon dioxide in Earth and affects the global warming. The negative effect this has on individuals within the ecosystem gets worse as the food web progresses. For example, if the Arctic tern ate a berry off of a contaminated plant, and then the fox ate the tern, and a polar bear ate the fox, the bear would be the most negatively affected, and this is called biomagnification.
And how do these animals interact with each other? Do they form any kind of relationship?
Many symbiotic relationships occur in the tundra. For example, the Arctic bumblebee pollinates the Arctic poppy, and in turn, the bumblebee is provided with food and nectar from the poppy. This is known as mutualism, when both animals benefit. Now, the caribou might not be the real organism eating the lichen. Parasitism occurs when a liver tapeworm cyst invades the caribou's body. These cysts grow and live inside the body of a host and eat the food coming into the body. This results in a malnutrition of the host, in this case the caribou, and may cause a decrease in density.
Well, we're out of time, folks. I certainly learned a whole lot. I hope you had fun on this episode of Diving Deep into Ecology. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.